Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome to Mind Ease with Stella, your space for calm, clarity, and Christ-centered growth. Today, we continue with part 5 of what Christ said, I am the vine and you are the branches. And last time, we ended by talking about how the entire ascending creation is included in the process of purgation. And I remember explaining to you what purgation really means: to be purged, to be purified. The entire ascending creation has to go through a purification process. As you all know, humanity requires a lot of purification. Some of the things I hear from human beings actually make me realize that our souls have a long way to go. By the time you get to a point where you insult somebody with no guilty conscience at all, by the time you get to a point where you want to really hurt somebody with no guilty conscience at all, you do not realize that the person you are sinning against is actually God. Before you sin against your fellow neighbor, before you sin against your parents, before you sin against anybody else, you're sinning against God. And it has been meticulously worked out as well. For many transformations and many new shapes are also required. And this is a part of the purifying process for all who are and who were prepared to start on their path of return to heaven. I remember asking you, do you want to go to heaven? Because there's nobody who's going to live on this earth forever. At least that's something that we can all, the 7 billion of us on this earth, agree that time comes and it's time for everyone to leave this earth. Each and every person has their time that is allocated for them here on this earth. And afterwards, you go. Where do you go? It must be interesting for a Christian to learn and to reach the insight into how this ascent operates and how this spiritual life is fitted into various clothes. In order to progress upwards, a spirit has to enter incarnation in various bodies. The burden, however, isn't the same for everyone. Some spirits were cast out of heaven because of their insecurity or fickleness. And to be fickle actually means to lack firmness or steadiness. As you know, Jesus Christ said, listen, you must be hot or cold. You cannot be in between. Otherwise, he will spit you out of his mouth. So being someone who is steady and decisive in what you are doing, if you are going with Christ, go with Christ. You cannot be in between. You cannot dangle in between. No, fickleness is not accepted in heaven. So some of them were fickle actually, and you wouldn't actually compare that with the wickedness that other people are doing, because some were full of wickedness and greed, and so they must follow a longer path. The purgation of a spirit with this kind of burden is different. A more severe purgation is required because his spiritual orb has been seriously polluted. And this has to be cleansed. It definitely has to be cleansed. What do we mean by spiritual orb? By orb, I mean the spiritual energy, the life force. As you know, it's the spirit in you that gives you the energy or the life force. And I was talking to some people the other day and actually explaining the process of death is whereby the spirit that gives you the life force actually gets out of your body after probably your body organs are no longer functioning, or you had a heart attack or something like that. It means that the spirit cannot continue to exist in your body. Therefore, it gets out, it comes out. You have your spiritual body. You have your soul, you have your mind. Therefore, it's the spirit that actually gets out, and that's the death process. So that spiritual force, that polluted orb, Because when you pollute your soul, when your soul is actually very far from purification, and how you decide about purification of your soul is actually the decisions you make in life. Are you actually a Christ-centered person? Do you follow the commandments of Christ? Do you actually do good? If Christ said, love your neighbor as you love yourself, will selfishness allow you to do that actually? Therefore, there are some people that have a very polluted spiritual energy, and that is the spiritual odd. This polluted odd has a higher density and it is more condensed, and as such, it points towards a lower life form, which the individual concerned will have to experience. And well, dear brothers and sisters, perhaps my words are not clear enough for some. However, I have already spoken a lot about this subject for many times. Therefore, I would like to explain this somewhat clearer. At the time, Christ was rather considerate and careful for people who couldn't understand and grasp it. Those people could not understand and grasp it, so Christ was very careful. Yet, today, people are ready to understand. And whether you're ready to understand or not does not stop the fact of God's will from taking place. Whether you're ready to understand or not, God's will has to take place. After all, we live on this earth. That is God's will. That is God's will. The universe is so huge. There are other entities in other places. And it is also God's will for those places to exist and those entities to exist. It is God's will. Therefore, you also do have your own free will to decide on the choices that you're going to make, to decide on how obedient you're going to be in the process of purgation. These people think differently. Their mind is sharper than that of those people in those days who didn't have all the modern technology that you have right now. At least I'm able to come online and talk about these things. This is the technology that we are talking about. Somebody is able to access this information through the technology, which was not available many years ago. It was not available. And in those days, people were very basic in their thinking. That is why Christ was very careful with them. Christ had to talk to them accordingly, explaining what he had to say in figurative parables. It was most certainly difficult for those human beings, but at the same time, those teachings were understood and could be explained by enlightened and spiritually oriented people. Those are the people who could explain. However, these people were pushed aside, and the time came when no one believed them anymore. This is Mind Ease with Stella, your space for calm, clarity, and Christ-centered growth.
Stay peaceful, stay connected.